Wonderful. Okay, so hammer-ons in fingerpicking. We're going to work with E major. Okay, we're going to base it around an E major chord first of all, and we'll just look at the techniques, and then we'll build into a nice little sequence, which will be something that we can jam over and enjoy. So starting off, to give us a sense of why we're learning about this specific technique in fingerpicking, we need the kind of rhythm of our picking hand, because what's going to happen is we're going to have a consistent rhythm in our picking hand, and then our fretting hand is going to be a rhythmic device. Okay, so as with a lot of fingerpicking sessions that we do, in some ways we're not really looking at melody or harmony, we're looking at picking as a percussive thing. Okay, so I've got a nice little simple exercise for you guys to have a little look at here, and we're just going to zoom in on bar 1. Okay, so try not to get ahead of ourselves too quick, so that we can get this bit sorted. All right, just got to move things around a smidge so I can see everything. Good. Okay, so what's happening here is we're sort of setting out our rhythm in our picking hand. We're holding down an E major chord. Okay, so first finger G string, first fret, third finger second fret D string, second finger second fret A string. And the rhythm that is being played is, well, if I tapped it out, is okay, and that's going to be going on in this hand only. We're going to play the E string with our thumb, and then we're going to play the D string with our thumb. Okay, so that's 2 on beats. 1, 2, sorry, 1, 2. Okay, and then our thumb is going to go back to the E. Okay, and then our index finger is going to play up on the G, and that's our first offbeat. So we've gone 3 and. So we get 1, 2, 3 and. Okay, and then finally at the end of the bar, our thumb is going to play the D string on the 4th beat. Okay, 1, 2. We're going to give it a bit of a swing. Okay, and we're going to just build on that, introducing things into our fretting hand. But it's really crucial to be completely sort of on autopilot with what's going on in our picking hand. So we need to 110% nail that little pattern. So just one more time for you. Thumb plays the low E, thumb plays the D. 1, 2. Thumb plays the low E, and then index finger plays up on the G. Okay, that's 3 and. So we get 1, 2, 3 and then thumb plays the D for 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, we're just going to do that for a bit because, as I said, super duper important that you can do this on autopilot. Bit of a swing. Wonderful. Okie dokie. So what's going to happen now is we're going to start introducing our hammer-on. So we talked about the basic idea of what's going on with a hammer-on already, but we're going to introduce it into our picking pattern. And the idea of this, as I said, is not something melodic or harmonic, it's something rhythmic. So we've taken a rhythm of, and now we're going to have, okay, how do we do that? Well, we don't change anything in our picking hand, we just change in our fretting hand. What we do is we play the open D when we go to play the D rather than the 2nd fret D string, and then we hammer it on. So we get open E, open D, hammer on, back to the E, up on the G, and then down on the D with our thumb. Okay, now it's a fantastic rhythmic device because you can kind of play with the note length of your hammer-on as well. You can make it really last minute. Or super quick. Oh. Okay, and when we tend to learn hammer-ons, even if we're quite an advanced player, we tend to think about making a really clean note, but we don't tend to think about seeing it as part of the rhythm and the interplay. Okay, so it's worth just focusing on the duration of the notes. So we'll just play through that a few more times, okay, to make sure everyone's nice and comfy with that, and then we'll start to build up a little more. So. It's also trying to have equal volume and then being able to vary that volume so that you can make the hammered notes louder, for example. Because that emphasizes different parts of the rhythm. Okay, so it's all really about having that control over what's going on. Okay, cool. So we've taken a very, very simple picking pattern. Brought in a hammer-on to make it more interesting. Nothing's changing it in our picking hand, but already things are starting to sound a little bit more magic. Now, at this point, hopefully some of you are a little bit frustrated with that and wanting to move on desperately. However, if you can sort of double down on what's going on in your fretting hand with this whole sort of dynamic idea, then you can really make some magic happen by bringing in that sort of louder hammered notes, for example, or just playing with the rhythm. Okay, it's really worth holding yourself back a little bit and just playing with that first. Fantastic. Okay, so let's just keep adding to this for a little bit longer. So my next little example for you is a nice little cheeky development. Okay, and this is starting off with a hammer and switching our picking pattern, which when we start to put this together later should cause some significant but constructive headaches. All right, so we're doing this instead. The idea being that then you can start going and mixing it around a little bit. Okay, so to break that down for you, we start off this time on the D string with our thumb, open D and hammer on, back down to the low E, up to the D with your thumb, up with the index on the G, and then to the low E. Okay. And if you're feeling, you know, as I say, sort of frustrated by that, if you can just sort of loop those two around. Okay, that's a really nice little exercise to work with there as well. Okay, let's just keep cracking on though. Excellent. Okay, so last little addition that I want to throw in here before we start bringing it into a nice little sequence and we're going to play around together is the idea of fitting in triplets. Okay, a really nice little flair that you can add in and works beautifully either side of hammer-ons as well. Alright, what's happening is after our low E and then our open D and hammering on, okay, our thumb is then playing the A string up on the G with our index finger and our thumb on the D. Okay, but it's in a triplet, so it's da-da-da-da. And then our middle finger plays up on the B. Cool. Lovely. Okay, so what's happened is we've taken our very, very simplistic. We then built up to this. Played with the dynamics a bit so that we can bring in the hammer-on even louder. Then we switched it around. Okay, and then we finally brought in a little triplet like this. Wonderful. Okay, we got more little challenging bits to put on top, but for now, what we're going to do is we're going to work through these patterns put into a rather beautiful sequence. So we're going to have something like this. Cool. However, it should be up to you guys what you want to do with it. So you could even not do the hammer-ons and just do your pattern of or you could throw in the simple hammer-on pattern. Oh. Or you could throw in your triplets as well. Ooh. It's going to be totally up to you. So I'm going to teach you the little chord shapes. I'm just going to do this without the tab, I think. So we've obviously got our E major chord at the beginning, and then what we're doing really is we're working up through the key of E major, but we don't need to think in a theory way because they're just lovely sounding chords. So what you need to do is just take your 2 fingers away and move your first finger up to the G string on the 2nd fret. Okay, put your little finger 4th fret D string and your 3rd finger 4th fret A string. Nice, huh? instant loveliness. Okay, so that's first finger, second fret, G string, little finger, fourth fret, D string, third finger, fourth fret, A string. And then for even more loveliness, take that shape and move it up 2 frets. Super duper lovely. 4th fret and 6th fret. Nice, okay, and then we make our E major shape again, but this time on the 6th and 7th fret. And finally, we take that E major shape and move it up 1, 2 frets to 8 and 9. Okay, if we want to strum these chords, okay. Now, if you want to, I love the idea of all of you sort of stealing little bits from sessions and writing songs or little, little ditties or riffs or whatever it is that you want to. If you want to use just those chords on their own, there's some lovely little patterns to be made, probably starting on the E major. With those chords alone. Okay, so even if you just walk away with that lovely chord sequence, I'd say that's a win. Okay. Cool, so to get us comfortable with those chords, I'm going to play around with our first finger picking pattern. We'll do 2 bars on each chord, and we'll apply it like that. I'll just get up the music again. You might want to screenshot it at this point, I'm not sure. Okay, so first of all, we're playing through the whole sequence with this pattern. Okay, 2 bars each. Now, if at this point you want to switch around fingers, that's totally cool. We're just keeping the rhythm and the motion the same. So as long as you're going thumb, 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 finger, thumb, that's cool. If you want to use your middle finger instead of your index finger and play the B string, for example, so maybe going or the E string, back to the G maybe, back to the E. That's totally fine, and that's a lovely little development. Again, if you want to develop even further just on this first one, if you want to switch your thumb to be playing, I don't know, maybe you're playing the A and D string rather than the E and D string sometimes. That's fine as well because the motion's the same. Okay, all we're trying to get in the habit of is doing the same sort of system or motion or rhythmic mechanism. All right, and then it makes a lot more sense when we bring the hammer-ons in, which we'll do in a second. So let's just go around just with that simple pattern twice on each bar, 2 bars on each chord. We'll go around a bunch of times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Beginning. One more time. Cool, fantastic. Okay, so let's bring in the hammer-on now, and things start to get a little bit interesting. Okay, on some of our chords, this whole hammer that's happening on the D string, all right, is sometimes gonna, this one here, is sometimes gonna feel a little strange. Okay, so we might even want to think about switching it to a different string, like the A string, for example. Oh. It's totally up to you. You could just stick with the D string. Okay, it's totally up to you if you want to switch it around a little bit. Or what would probably be more natural to do is just to do the hammer-on sometimes, but not on all the chords. So for example, okay, and that actually gives us a little bit of rhythmic variation as well. All right, so again, we're going to play through it again. You could just play the simple pattern if you wanted to. You could start playing this one with the hammer-on. And if you are doing the hammer-on, as you get to each chord shape, don't feel you have to do it on the D string. You could start doing it on the A string, or in fact, you could just miss it out. I'm going to start mixing it up a little bit as well, okay? Because that's kind of the key with all this stuff. It's learning little rhythmic patterns and then just applying them in different ways. As long as you've like religiously stuck to that sort of system of using thumb, 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 finger, thumb, all right? It's going to be quite easy to mix it and match with different patterns or miss bits out. So if you're struggling to do that, then just take a step back and just really, again, that word doubling down on that sort of simplicity of the system, all right? And that will really help you out. Okay. Let's stop the share there and let's go round again. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last time round. Okie doke. Now, hopefully some of you are probably starting to loosen up a bit as well, where you can move away from always playing individual strings and just start using the mechanism of you going down with your thumb. So if you want to rake through E, A and D, that's cool. And if you, rather than your index finger just playing G, maybe you want to play up through several strings, then that's really great to do. Let that sort of naturally happen, because it just gives you another little dynamic level to go from. So you can sort of meander or drift, flow from finger picking to strumming kind of thing. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to do this lovely little sort of turning it on its head by putting our hammer on at the beginning, which really starts to break up things and make the sounds a little bit more fresh. So putting that into context, if I was maybe going from this, just makes it a little bit more interesting. Just switching it round. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing the screen again and we'll go around, and ultimately if you want to be doing the first one, the second one, the third one, or all mixing them up, that's totally cool. And then we'll thrill in our triplets, and then we'll throw in some lead stuff with it. Woo! Okay, here we go then. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last time round. Lovely. Okay, so triplets, triplets, triplets. This is one of my absolute favourite things to do, and it starts to bring things to life. Okay, it's kind of tricky though, so if you're more of a beginner or intermediate guitarist, don't stress, all right? Don't worry about it at all. Okay, so we've got 2 little variations written out for you here, which, again, it's really important to think about it systematically because they're rhythmic. They're harmonic to the degree that we're maybe going from low to high, but we're not thinking like, oh, I'm going from the 1st to the 5th to the 6th or anything like that. We're just scanning through the chord in a rhythmic way, kind of like doing a drum roll or something like that. If you try and think about finger picking like that, it really opens things up a little bit. Okay, so the first example is that first bar here. All right, now what's happening is we're going thumb, index, thumb. So we've got this one little triplet here. So let's attack that on its own. So your thumb's going to play the A string, your index finger's going to play the G string, and your thumb's going to play the D. Just think of it as a rhythmic. Think of a train. Okay, and then we finish the bar with our middle finger playing the G. Slowly. Now triplets are the most satisfying thing on earth to play when you get them, okay? So really try and get into that sort of, I don't know, push and pull of your thumb and finger. Da, ga, da, da. So that's just that pattern played across the chord sequence. Okay. Now, the second one is more of a personal favourite really, okay? What's crucial here is we shift out of like our usual pattern of keeping index, middle and ring finger, or IMA, on the G, B and E, okay? Because most stuff that we do in finger picking is based on multiples of 2, so going between thumb and finger, for example. But when we work in multiples of 3, it's kind of nice to work with thumb, index and middle, and to be able to group them together, okay? So that's me grouping them together. So what we're going to do is we're holding down your E major chord, move thumb, index and middle to G, B and E, and you're going to go backwards. Middle, index, thumb, E, B, G. Okay? 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to move that group to B, G and D. So we go B, G, D. Okay, this is more advanced, all right? So don't feel bad if it doesn't work out straight away. Okay, you can actually keep those patterns. Okay, you can sort of stretch them out to be much longer once you're confident with them. Okay, it's kind of tricky, but really satisfying when you get it. So again, it's just remembering the grouping. All right, so middle, index, thumb. We're going E, B, G, and then B, G, D. Okay, so a really nice way to go through this pattern might be just to do that. really nice thing to do. Alternatively, working with the first one. Okay, it can be lovely to work through too. All right, I think what would be nice to do is just to have a bit of a free-for-all playthrough, and then I'll talk about a little bit of lead playing options over the top of that, and then we'll have another final little jam session through. And if you've got any questions, you guys can ask. You all know that, I think, by now. Great. All right, I'll take that away for a little second as well. And we'll have a little playthrough. So totally up to you guys which pattern you work with. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to try and just sort of hold down the rhythm to a degree as well, with that kind of open picking, to give you guys something more solid to experiment with. I might end up doing a lot of triplets because I'm slightly addicted to them. Alrighty. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Okay. So So hopefully some of you were able to play some of the more tricky patterns. I can't see close enough to see if we've got many of the triplets coming through, but I kind of hope so, because when it starts to come, it's just awesome. A great little exercise for that, okay, is to hold down a chord and just work in the patterns of 3 through each string. So E, B, G, B, G, D, G, D, A, D, A, E. Okay, and even just doing it in lower strings can really sort of feel quite alien because your hand is at a different angle. It's a lovely little technique to work on. Wonderful. Okay, cool. So we've gone through a lot there, really, just over one sequence. And hopefully your hammer-ons have become a little bit more coordinated with your finger picking, because as I was saying, it's really about a rhythmic thing. So it's worth thinking about it like that. So not just thinking about your picking hand as a rhythmic thing, but also thinking about your fretting hand as a rhythmic thing. Cool. Okay, so before one last little jamboree, a little bit of lead playing opportunities and some ideas. So we're working in E major here, which actually we kind of spent a fair old bit of time in. And looking at scales there, we did like different versions of Amazing Grace, done some blues stuff based around E major. It's a lovely little key to work through, and there's some really sort of nice little tricks for our lead playing that we could do when we're playing in this key. The biggest thing that's going to trip us up is this, that open G, all right, because it just doesn't really work. Okay, so you really want to avoid the note of G if you're going to do a little bit of soloing over this. Otherwise, it's not too bad. So your open A would work, sorry, your open E would work, A, D, B, and E, okay? So open string-wise, we're fine, apart from that open G. A nice thing to do, lead playing-wise, is to work with an open high E and the B string, okay? Going between thumb and index finger. Okay, that can be really satisfying and effective, even doing it between chords. All that's happening there is going between thumb and index on B and E. I've got a little scale basically. I'll work you through that now. Working first of all open B and E, and then second fret B. E's always going to remain open. This scale's going to sound pretty beautiful anyway, just on its own, doing it like this with the little pedal note. They're called pedal notes, by the way. Up to the 4th fret. Oh, that's lovely. And then up to the 5th fret for 2 E's, up to the 7th fret, up to the 9th fret. We can also go up to the 10th, and then up to 12 to finish it. And if you really play with the dynamics, that can become the most beautiful thing. Now, we don't have to think about changing fingers here, because actually it's a good excuse to stick with one, because we could do some lovely sliding. Okay, so that's a nice little nifty trick to work with. Otherwise, if you want to think about C sharp minor, that's going to work really, really nicely. And to teach you that very quickly, so more for the advanced players here, if you really want to catch in on this, it's a bit of an added extra. It's 4th fret A string, 6th fret A string, and 7th fret A string. Okay, and then same pattern up on the D, 4, 6, 7, and then 4, 6 on the G, and then on the B we're going 4, 5, 7, and same on the E, 4, 5, 7. Okay, and that will just be a nice little scale to work around. But otherwise, don't touch the open G or any note of G, in fact, and then experimenting with that is a wonderful way to work. If you forget the numbers that I said, don't worry. Just use it as an opportunity to test what works and what doesn't. Okay, we'll go through one more little time just for a free-for-all. I hope you enjoy it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful. I hope you enjoyed.